Well, welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate, hosted by me, your host Thomas F Chappell Jr. We was entangled in a conversation with Bruce Blaylock, and we was talking about the credit side and how can it work for people. Now, when I got into investing, the two books that I was interested. I mean, it was a bunch of them, but the two books I was interested in, which I was listening to audio because I can't stand reading. I love listening because I can take it with me everywhere I go. Was the Rich Dad Poor Dad, which everybody was interested in, and I got a different thing out of it than most people, and I understand everybody talk about mindsets and things like that, but my outtake on it was that the highest plateau you can reach is, go to school, get a PhD, and your ceiling is met. So that's where I look at the multiple income streams is when your ceiling is met, you can't make no more money higher than what that degree will allow you to make. But the best book that I do love, and I tell everybody about it, is The Richest Man from Babylon. Because there's a biblical based story out of it, but it also tells you and understand how to be able to build wealth. A lot of people understand or know, but then they cut corners when you got specific instructions on how to do it. But sometimes it takes longer than what people have, and that's called time. And a lot of people want things instantaneously instead of waiting that time because now you can appreciate better. So could you expound on that for me, please?
Sure. It's interesting you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that book also. And one of the strategies that we push and we teach is obtaining assets before you buy things like cars or even a home, is to create assets that generate income that can pay for these things so that you'll always be in a position of security. If you're buying lots of assets and they create debt for you, that's definitely not a good thing. Definitely according to Rich Dad Poor Dad. And what I learned from him is the concept of before you buy these assets, these gifts to yourself, so to speak, is you want to purchase or identify or obtain income producing assets that services the debt or pays for those things. So that this way, if you're worthy, you're worthy based on your ability to afford it comfortably. And the way that you're able to afford something comfortably is by having an asset in place that generates the income to service the debt on that particular asset. So yeah, his strategies, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, are very sound, make a lot of sense, and I live by them myself.
Okay, now what about the book The Richest Man in Babylon? What do you think about that?
Great concepts, really great concepts. The ideas and the methodologies and the techniques and systems that are portrayed in that is something that is just mind blowing. And if you follow these strategies and these methodologies and these techniques and these systems, it can completely change your financial trajectory. A lot of people don't know, though, that one of the important things that they can do is just to read and educate themselves. And books like, that you've mentioned, as well as one of my favorites, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
Yes, sir.
are books that, are designed to change the way you process strategy, money, and finances, the way you work on building yourself and teaching yourself and educating yourself through visualization, through transmutation, through the desire of knowing exactly what it is that you want and putting in place the systems, the vehicles, and the methods to obtain that. These are strategies that are as old as the mountains, but many people are unfamiliar with them. And just by reading, it's amazing what you can learn.
Now, here's the thing with you and me. I've told you this before, is that what you have taught me thus far, so forth, and it's always good to learn. You never can stop learning. Is that the things you're doing and helping people to grow businesses and things like that? Is that you're like a Shaquille O'Neal or a Warren Buffett, where these people are teaching you how to go buy businesses and then you don't have to worry about controlling. You just continue to reap the benefits from it, and that's what happened with Shaquille. Warren Buffett told him how to do that. Same thing that happened to Magic Johnson with Dr. Buss teaching him how to become an entrepreneur and stuff like that. People, you got to understand that there's a lot of people out there that can help you. Just the fact is, you got to learn how to trust people. Everybody's not out to get you. Trust is a big major factor in everything that you do. You know what I'm saying? Because I tell people there's truth to lies and some lies to some truth. Because I am an educator, because I was educated and I end up giving back what was given unto me. Now, before we go any further, here's the one thing I want to do ask that probably nobody ever asked before, is that if you had an opportunity to go back and talk to your younger self, what would you ask that person? What would you say to that person? Would you be doing what you're doing now, or would you be doing something totally different? Expound, please.
Wow, that's a great question. Um, but I have a great answer for that. Two things I would do. The first thing is I would invest much more aggressively. One of the things that I've learned over the years is by just putting $250 to $500 in a mutual fund that usually gives a return of 8 to 12% as an average annually. If you were to put $250 to $500 in a mutual fund over the course of 20 years to 30 years, you would obtain $1 to $2 million in liquid capital. So I would aggressively invest. I would invest far more aggressively, trying to put at least $1,000 a month into an investment vehicle, so that at the age that I am right now, I'd be much more liquid with much more substantial capital. So that, and I recommend that for anyone coming out of college. If you could put your money in a Scudder fund, Vanguard fund, a very well-established mutual fund that tried and true gives a return of 8 to 12% statistically, I would do that as soon as possible as I got out of college and started working, making money. And I would stay the course, because you'll find that you'll be a millionaire within a fairly short period of time, and have the ability to do so many things, purchase your assets with cash. The other thing I would do is I would enter the entrepreneurial realm much earlier. When I graduated college, I did start a business with a business partner and some people I went to school with. It wasn't very successful. It didn't last very long. It was exciting, but I didn't stay to it. I didn't turn to become an entrepreneur until I reached my mid 30s. And had I gotten into the world of entrepreneurship much earlier and developed those entrepreneurial muscles, I'd be much further than I am right now. So developing your specialization as early as possible, exercising those entrepreneurial skills much earlier, and investing aggressively much earlier would be the things that I would say that I would have done differently, or that I would tell my younger self for sure. One of the things I also learned that I would have done earlier is when I first started my business as a management consultant firm, strategic advisory firm, I was raising capital for a lot of people. And over several years, I raised lots of funds for many entrepreneurs who were young and new, and sometimes $100,000 in cash and $100,000 in credit. And what I found is that many of them, although ambitious, weren't putting the money into the right places. They were putting it into their businesses, or they were blowing the cash and not putting it into their businesses at all because they weren't used to having money. Eventually, what that did is that led me to design a division of my business called Business Acquisition Services, which is the acquiring of income-producing businesses. I wish I had done that earlier, and I guess I needed to learn. And the reason why that I designed that business is because clients I was raising all this money for clients, and they weren't putting it into the right vehicles, or the vehicles they were putting into, which was often their own businesses, weren't cash flowing. So I had to design this business, this division of my business that would enable me to help my clients create wealth and service debt and position themselves for generational wealth eventually. So I would have done that much earlier, and I would have had a greater legacy of success with clients in my earlier years rather than my later years.
Okay. So, Bruce, we get ready to take our last break here, and then we'll come back and wrap it up with you. And, man, I got to have you come back, man, because you got so many nuggets you've been dropping. I got to have you come back, man. I wish you could be in the studio, but we got to do this Zoom thing. So let's take our last commercial break, and we'll be back with our guest, Bruce Blaylock. This is the Real Men of Real Estate. Thank you.